Tom Baker's companion throughout the entirety of the absolutely fabulous, of course, season 16. From time traveller to crime traveller via trauma in suburban Liverpool. If elegance had a human form, it would be Mary Tamm.
This is comfy, it's a bit too comfy actually. If I drop off, wake me up, won't you?
Oh, if I drop off, wake me up.
Well, if we both drop off, who's going to wake us up? Sorry, talk among yourselves.
So, Mary, did you think in 1978, when you took part in Romana, did you think that almost 20 years later it would still have an effect on your life like this?
Yeah, I didn't actually, obviously. I mean, I knew the series had a cult following. Funnily enough, I haven't watched it very much. I'm just going to use the I think I really am going to pause this. I'll just prop myself up more comfortably. That's what I watched. I knew the series had a cult following, and I had watched it, but not since the William Hartnell days, when the series started. So I had no idea, that this would be, 20 years on, still getting fan mail, doing conventions and that sort of thing. So it's actually rather nice to have this long run of success, as it were, with one programme. The other thing, of course, which has carried the programme on is the videos which were released last year in my particular series. So because of that, I've had a whole new generation of Doctor Who fans who bought the videos and writing letters, and it's like starting all over again. So it's a bit of a, what's the word, deja vu, that's right.
Did you ever watch them yourself?
I haven't actually. I remember when my daughter was quite small. She got into watching Doctor Who when it was on television, so we did watch a little bit of it together. And then, of course, when she'd heard that I'd been in it, she said, "Oh, I'd love to see you in it, Mummy," and I had to track the videos down, because believe it or not, I didn't get any from the BBC when I did it. In fact, I didn't have a video machine, I think, when I did Doctor Who, so I tracked down some pirate copies and showed them to her, and of course, I couldn't bear to watch them myself. And about halfway through, she said, "Oh, this isn't very interesting, Mummy. Can we go out to the park now?" So it didn't really have a very strong effect, you know what I mean? Of course, she's very proud of, the fact that I'm in a cult programme, and so am I. I think all the actors who did Who and who come to the conventions are now really proud to be part of it, because it is such a huge cult thing, as you know, not just here, but in America and in Australia, so it's been great.
Did you, backtracking a bit, a few years, did you actually come from an acting background?
No, I didn't come from an acting background. In fact, my parents were refugees in this country. They came from Estonia, which is one of the Baltic states. My mother had been an opera singer, and when they were sent up to the north of England, she carried on as a singer, but she used to do working men's clubs, actually. And she used to sing opera in working men's clubs in the north of England. I mean, can you imagine? It didn't exactly go down the storm. But she did lots of amateur operatics and things like that, and it wasn't until recently, when I looked through all my old diaries, because I kept diaries actually from the age of about 4 to, my mid-20s. And when I looked through all these old diaries, my mother used to take me out to the theatre once or twice a week. So we'd either go to see an opera or a ballet or a film or, a theatre show. So I think because of all this, culture, if you like, that I was exposed to at a very early age, and because of my mother's singing background, it might have had something to do with it, because I remember being a school play as early as the age of 5 and loving it, loving performing. And then I joined, I think it was about 4 amateur dramatic groups in Bradford, one of which was the West Riding Youth Theatre, doing lots and lots of theatre between the ages of 11 and 18. And then finally, I went to RADA when I was 18, so I was at RADA till I was 21. And then went straight into the Birmingham Rep, which is really where my career started professionally. And haven't looked back since, really.
Interesting. Had you not gone into acting, where do you think your career may have gone?
Well, one of my earliest ambitions was always to be a writer. And I have done writing anyway. I wrote quite a lot of poetry when I was at school, which I did get published. In my 20s, I did a little bit of journalism and also wrote those awful soppy stories for women's magazines, the romantic type. Very difficult to write, actually. I have to tell you, they are very, very difficult to write. And I've tried my hand with writing film scripts as well, which is different again and also very difficult because you've really got to, you know, pan it out with all your dialogue and your locations and your shots. You know, I've sort of struggled with that a bit, but haven't really finished anything yet. But I do want to. And I suppose really one day I would very much like to write a book. And just haven't had the time, and I keep saying that, it's just an excuse really. It's the discipline, you know, sitting down on your own in front of a computer or a word processor or whatever. So that's something that I'd very much like to do still, but I don't really know what changed my mind about suddenly becoming an actor. It's, as I say, probably because of all the culture that I was exposed to in the North. We're very cultured up North, aren't we? And I don't know, just one of those things. I just knew, you know, from a very early age that that's what I wanted to do.
I mean, obviously at the time that you got into Doctor Who, you were already quite well established in the profession. You did Decify, I think you did one of those portmanteau horror films.
I certainly did.
Got snapped dead in the showers.
I did, yes. And I got eaten. I got cooked and eaten by Kim Novak, which is quite a claim to fame, I think, really. No, I was quite lucky when I left Harvard because, as I say, I started my career at the Birmingham Rep, which was a wonderful experience because I was there for a year. And I worked with some wonderful people. We did a musical to start with called First Impressions, actually, and that was with, was that with Joan Simmons? No, I think she was in the next one. Well, anyway, Cheryl Kennedy and Gemma Craven were in that, and the next one we did was another musical called Good Time Johnny with Ronnie Barker and Joan Simmons, so I met some wonderful people, and then I did a play with Derek Jacobi as well. So that was a very good grounding, and then shortly after I left, I got very quickly actually into television and films. I did a three-part thriller for the BBC called The Donati Conspiracy, which I appeared in with Richard Beckinsale, who sadly isn't around anymore, but he was very, very good to work with and was playing a straight part actually. So that was the first telly, and then, as I say, I quickly got into films after that because I think the first one I did was the one that I mentioned with Kim Novak, because originally this was like a sort of funny little horror thing. It was 4 separate stories, and it was called Tales that Witness Madness. I don't know if anybody here's caught that little gem. Yes, a few hands going up in the audience. Oh, well, poor you, never mind. And I played Rita Hayworth's daughter originally. Rita Hayworth was originally cast as my mum, and unfortunately she was just starting to suffer from the Alzheimer's disease, which she very sadly died from. And they had to recast Kim Novak. Well, they had to recast and they chose Kim Novak, so that was quite an experience in itself, you know, working with 2 movie legends, you know, I think 3 or 4 years out of drama school. And then after that, I was signed up by Columbia Warner to do The Decify, which was, again, a huge international movie, which I did with John Voight, Maximilian Schell, you know, lots of, and Derek Jacobi was in that too, funnily enough. And also Peter Jeffries, who I later met on Doctor Who. So it's nice to see him again. And then, I forget the sequence here, but I did do a lot of films and television, and I think Doctor Who was 1978.
Yes.
So that was 6 years after I left drama school, yeah.
Did you hear that the part had come up, or did your agent say this would be a good thing for you to do this?
Well, yes, my agent rang me because, funny enough, she was also representing George Spenton Foster, who directed the first story. Yeah. What did you say?
The Reverse Operation.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. And so she obviously was very keen for me to do it because, you know, the connection with George and everything. But I must say I wasn't very keen because I'd had all this film experience and, you know, I didn't really sort of think of Doctor Who as a dramatic part because it had such a kind of populist following. I mean, in those days it was quite different to the way people do it now. But when she said, oh, well, you know, they've written a completely different character, she's going to be very intelligent and, you know, smarter than the Doctor, on an equal footing with the Doctor, you know, I got all this spiel to sort of draw me in. So I went along and I think we had to do a screen test. Well, we did have to do a screen test, I remember it well. And there were 6 of us finally. I think they saw 200 people and screen tested 6. And that was it. Yeah. Wonderful. I was very thrilled to get it, very thrilled.
Was it always your intention just to do the 1 year and quit?
No, it was never my intention. It was just the fact that originally, as I say, they'd portrayed Romana as a very sort of, bright, adventurous, and, what's the word?
Ice Maiden.
Ice Maiden is good, yes, I like it. So it was an interesting character the way it had been described, and the writers to a certain extent did try to, start off and continue into the middle of the series with the character as it was, but what I soon realised is that basically, because it's a half-hour format and the programme is very technical and there has to be a lot of explanation, you have got to have somebody who asks questions for the audience's sake. So instead of me being a protagonist or whatever, I had to keep asking Tom why he was doing this or what was happening. And eventually the character, by the end, had kind of disintegrated into the usual watch out doctor, what's this, and screams and all the rest of it. So I felt that there wasn't much point in doing another year because I didn't want to just like playing and hanging along behind type character. So in a sense I was disappointed at the way that the character had, finally evolved itself, or not evolved itself in my case. But I think, doing the lengths that I did and also having the umbrella theme, with the key to time and so on, I think it was just enough really. But obviously looking back now, I think, oh well, if I should have done more, but at the time I was very young and very ambitious, and I thought, oh well, this is enough now, and I'll go on to something else. So that's why I left the programme basically.
Interesting, of course, in your last story you worked alongside Alan Ward, who of course went on to play your character again from a slightly different perspective. Did you ever watch any of her performances? How do you think she approached it?
Well, I didn't watch the show at all after I left. I think out of interest watch Lala because, it was my suggestion that Lala take over. It was a joke really, but we were all sitting around the BBC canteen and Lala and I actually did get on very well. We became very good friends, and I think Graham Williams didn't really want to believe that I was going to leave the show. The BBC, until literally the last minute, didn't believe that I was going, and they didn't. That's why I was never written a regeneration scene, which I would have liked to have done. So we're all sitting in the canteen one day, joking and laughing, and Graham said, "So you really are leaving then, Mary?" I said, "Yes, I keep telling you, and my agent keeps telling you, I'm really leaving." He said, "But who's going to play Ramona then?" So I said, "Well, what about Lala?" Everybody laughed, And lo and behold, they got Lala to do the next Romana, which I don't know whether it was anything to do with me, but I was the first person to suggest it, so there you go.
Did you find, I know a lot of people feel, that having done a high-profile show like Doctor Who, it did then have a negative effect on your careers because you were so associated with that programme?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have had that grasp, but in my case, a lot of people also knew about the body of work that I'd done before, which was quite considerable actually. And for instance, shortly after I left the series, I was cast in a sort of mini series for the BBC called The Assassination Run. And the director on that is an Australian called Ken Hannaway, and he didn't even know that I'd done Doctor Who. He'd just seen my film work because he'd come from Australia. So in that instance, it didn't really matter. I think, funnily enough, the one thing that has dogged me though is the way that the press always refer to me as former Doctor Who girl. For instance, when I was doing Brookside, one paper was doing an article about me, and they said, "Oh, and Mary was last seen in Doctor Who 15 years ago," which was really annoying, because I have done a lot of television and film work in between as well. But obviously, because it's not as high profile, the press latch onto it, because everybody watches it and everybody's heard of it. I mean, the stuff that I've done in between, to me, is just as valid, and to people who know my work, it's valid to them as well, but it's the press that really give you the kiss of death, I think, from that school. So, and now, of course, I'm living down Brookside, or the ex-Brookside actress there in town. I don't mind that so much because Brookside is still running, so because Doctor Who is sort of like, I don't know, off-screen, somehow associated with the past, And as you say, I think a lot of people actually have found it very difficult, particularly the girls that went into it as a career break. Maybe hadn't done much before, and really didn't do very much afterwards, because I think that can be a disadvantage. So, the press don't help in that instance. I hope there are no members of the press here, by the way. Sorry about that, it's true.
I mean, again, doing Brookside, was it your initial intention only to stay for a set period?
Well, my initial intention was to stay for 6 months because that was my contract. And, I mean, again, it was one of those casting sessions where they saw literally hundreds of people for it. I think 200 again. And we were all on the train going up to Liverpool and coming back on the train together. Quite a song of us, you know. I think they had about 10 people going up one week and 10 the next. And I think I've travelled up 3 or 4 times in all. And it wasn't until the 3rd time that I got through to, like, you know, the 3rd interview and the 3rd video. They always put you on video. But they said, oh, by the way, you do know that it's for a year. And I said, oh, no, I thought it was just for 6 months. I said, oh, well, we've decided like that we want to use coming for flight, you know. So that was the new story, you see, and I thought, oh, I'm not sure about this. So having thought, you know, maybe it's going to be 6 months, I just said, oh, well, yeah, sure, you know, I'm prepared to do it. I didn't really think about it. And of course, when I got the part, I signed a 6-month contract, and within a week, the producer dragged me into his office and said, oh, we've got another contract here for you, Mary. And it was like a year, you know, so I thought, oh, God, no, what have I let myself into? And it was different, really, to signing my contract for Doctor Who, because it was set, you know, obviously it's set in Liverpool, and for me it was a bit of a wrench because I had to leave my family in London and, you know, live in Liverpool from Monday till Thursday or Tuesday till Friday or sometimes Monday till Saturday, you know, you never know where you are. And so at the beginning, yeah, I did feel a little bit of a sort of sinking feeling, but looking back on it now, it seemed to go very quickly, and I ended up doing 15 months in the end, basically because my storylines were very strong, you know, the character was fantastic. I think it's really one of the best parts that I've ever been offered on television. And the chance to work in a soap is, you know, quite challenging because you have to work quickly, you know, and you never know what's coming, you know, you get given a script one week, you've got to learn it for the next, and you're rehearsing another script for the week before. So the kind of pace of it appealed to me. As I say, you know, just because the part was so well written, I decided to do that stint. And looking back now, it's, you know, probably one of the best things I've done, really, because career-wise, unlike Doctor Who, which I wouldn't say gave my career a boost, Brookside did. You know, it's been like a wonderful rebirth, you know, to have done it, and people actually, I think, do respect it as a show because it does have some very hard-hitting social issues, and they take it more seriously than other soaps, perhaps. So that was for me, I think, quite a good thing to do.
Of course, quite recently, as you just saw from the clip, you did an episode of Crime Traveller.
That's right.
Well, I can say the word that you sort of stuck a bitch blackmail on stage, but a fairly
Not a very nice person.
Not a very nice
nasty
person.
bit of work there, nasty bit of work. So you're going to ask me a question about that?
Well, I was just going to say, well, I mean, was that, again, a consequence of Brookside release?
Well, I think it was in a way, because I have noticed that since I've left Brookside, I mean, I've been offered a lot of work, most of which I've turned down because I haven't been able to do it, you know, time-wise. So, yeah, I think just the casting director called my agent, and the agent, you know, sent me along, and the director and I got on very well. A lovely director called Rick Stroud, we just, you know, fell about laughing. And again, he didn't really know about Doctor Who. I think he vaguely knew that I'd been in it, so I don't think they picked me because of Doctor Who, because obviously the time travel thing is in a slightly different mode. In fact, when I went up for the part, I didn't even know it was anything to do with time travel. I was quite ignorant. And obviously, you know, it was just one episode, so I think I spent about a week doing it, and it was very nice. It was very nice. Nice to work with the other people in the cast and drive that, well, be driven in that lovely car instead of the TARDIS.
It's fun to play, you know, really nasty characters like that.
Yes, it is. And I think, you know, again, you know, in the early days, before Who and since Who, I was playing quite a lot of heroines, you know, because the 3-part miniseries which I mentioned, the assassination one, I was playing a victim in that, a kidnapped victim, that was terribly nice. And you do get a bit fed up with playing the goody-goody parts. In fact, this last year, I think I spent most of the time playing villainesses, which has been quite interesting. We'll get onto that later.
Well, what is coming up at the moment?
Oh, we'll get onto it now. We'll get onto it right away.
I think there's a link there.
There was a link, and you saw that link, yes. Right, well, the most exciting thing I did last year, which I hope will be hitting our screens later this year, was an episode of a series which Warner Brothers are making called The New Adventures of Robin Hood. And it's kind of medieval, but it's a bit like Robin Hood meets Star Wars, you know. There's a bit of fantasy involved, and extraterrestrials and spaceships and things, I believe, because there wasn't in the episode. But that should be quite interesting, because I play Robin's wicked aunt Alice, who's an abbess, you know, she's got all these nuns on her command. She's also a witch in her spare time, so it's an interesting little dual role, you know what I mean? So I had a lot of fun with that, and hopefully, because I'm a regular, not a regular character, but a recurring character, I'm going to go back and do that this year. It was all shot in Lithuania, by the way, which was, again, very interesting, because it's still quite medieval there, you know. And Christopher Lee's in it, so it's nice to work with him, and also Kate Mara's doing another villainess, because they like to get the Brits over to do the nasty parts, you see. They think only the Brits can play nasty parts for some reason. So that was one thing I did last year, and I've also done an episode of Heartbeat, which was interesting, because for the first time in 20 years, I can actually talk with my Bradford accent, you know, because I used to talk like this all the time, you know, but then I got a bit posh. So I can do my Bradford, and that's coming out in September, and I've got a film coming out, a feature film for the cinema, which was great fun to do, because it's another nasty character, and it's called Night Swimming, and I play a very powerful, sort of, a bit like Alexis Carrington type character. She's a music agent, and she kind of manipulates this young guy who's writing a musical, and which turns out to be all right in the end. So I'm not nasty right the way through it. I turn out quite nice in the end. And then something which I did a couple of weeks ago is another film, which is just a short film actually. It's 35 minutes long, and it's called what's it called? The Sweet Life, yes, because it's kind of like a little bit of a takeoff of La Dolce Vita, which was a Fellini film. And that's for Anglia Television, which hopefully is going out on all ITV channels and also in the cinemas again. So that's 4 things to watch out for this year. So I hope you like them and enjoy them.
Now, you may have noticed that I've quite deliberately actually steered away from asking you any questions specifically about Doctor Who, because I know the audience is going to do that for me.
Right.
But before I do throw it over to the audience, you know, we've got this thing here called the Manopticon bin, into which guests are placing
Throw themselves.
items that they have a particular dislike of.
Right.
Now, you brought, in fact, this perfume, Cocoa.
By Chanel. Well, it's meant to be Cocoa by Chanel. Now, somebody gave me this as a Christmas present. Somebody who's meant to be a friend of mine, and I don't know whether they knew, but it's actually a rip-off. So I've autographed the front, and if anybody wants a rip-off of Cocoa Chanel, it's going to be sold in the auction. So shall I chuck it in the bin?
Yes, it would be that.
Shall I try and throw it from here? Or
Well, you might break it.
No, better not. Better not.
Come down to the bin.
Right. So what else have we got in there? Don't tell me, John.
Yes, very much.
Right. Somebody's in there worth having, no, that's not. Right, I've got it in the bin, don't have it. Oh, thank you. That was really difficult.
Okay, that's exactly a good point now to actually
Yeah, anybody got any questions? Oh, the light's going. Yes, there's a gentleman at the back. No, in the middle there, yeah? Yes, yeah. I really can't hear you actually.
As well as your looks, the good aspect which you gave now so much class in the King's Time story is where the outfits that you wore in each different story. Were those outfits something you ever had, or were they chosen for you?
You're asking about the outfits that I wore? Yes. Well, basically, because we had a different director on every show, we also had a different costume designer. And I remember on the first one we had a lady called June Howson, and she took me along to see Cilla Black's dressmaker, because, you know, Cilla was still doing her cabaret and singing then, so we went along to see Cilla Black's dressmaker. And she had already designed the white dress, which I actually loved, you know, I mean, I couldn't have faulted it, but if I hadn't have liked it, I think I could have changed the design, and we actually had 6 of those white dresses made, because, you know, they got very dirty, and they also stretched. I mean, they started off just above the ankle and ended up, you know, coming under my shoes somewhere. And funnily enough, by the end of, what was it, the 4th episode, it's 4 stories, wasn't it? All the dresses had disappeared. So somebody out there has got all my Romana dresses, and I'd like one back, please. Not that it's anybody here, of course. There's somebody at the BBC, I think. And then I think the second one, I can't remember what the second one was.
Sort of reddish. No, it was pink. It was pink. It was a big silk thing.
Oh yeah, that was another nice outfit. And again, you know, I collaborated with the costume designer. I'd say really, you know, in all the episodes, it was really a collaboration between myself and the designer. I mean, the only one that I did one bit I was stuck on was the androids of Tara, because the original costume for that was like a sackcloth, you know. Because the costume designer said, oh, you're going to be riding a horse, so she designed these trousers and sort of like a sackclothy type tweed jacket, and I said, oh, it looks a bit itchy and it's going to be summer, and I completely redesigned that with Graham Williams, funny enough. So Graham and I designed that costume, which was my favourite, I think. No, it wasn't my favourite, I don't think, but I do get... Questions? Yes, what do I remember about doing the Likely Lads film? I forgot to mention that. Yeah, I did a film of the TV series The Likely Lads, the film version. What I remember about it basically was having to stand around in very cold locations up in Newcastle. Sitting in caravans. I mean, it wasn't very glamorous, actually, I have to say. We had a lot of laughs on it because, you know, as you can imagine, with all those comic actors around, it was quite funny and everything. But it was, again, quite a short shoot. It was probably 6 weeks in all, and I think I did my part in about 10 days. So I can remember working very hard and standing around in a lot of rain. Sorry, I can't be more amusing about that.
Was that good preparation for Doctor Who?
It was very good preparation for Doctor Who, yeah, because I mean on the locations in News, you know, all the coal mines and, you know, nuclear marshes, yeah, marshes are good, nuclear power stations, so it's lucky I'm from the north really, at least a bit of rain. Just another question there. Can't hear, I'm afraid.
After being in Brookside, do you want to say?
What was that?
After being in Brookside, if you were offered another soap, what would you be in?
If I was offered another soap, what would I be in? I think I'd like to be in a new soap, actually, or a lovely sort of glamorous, faraway soap in somewhere like California, perhaps, with lots of sunshine and lots of money, which you don't get in England. I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing another soap. I mean, the nice thing about doing soap is that you get to create your own character. I mean, certainly on Brookside, after a while, the writers start writing for you. You know, I didn't realise this at the beginning, but when you're in the studio or, you know, rehearsing something or your cameras are on you, the writers are actually up there watching on the monitors, and they don't tell you this, but they start writing in things that you might say as me, for instance, or, you know, they sort of develop the character for you. So that is the nice thing about doing a soap, because you actually have a lot of input. And you have a lot of chance to develop a character as well, which I find interesting. So yeah, I would do another soap. So anybody want to write a soap out there? Let me know. Another question here. Well, that's an interesting question. I haven't been asked that before. What do I like most and what do I like least about attending Doctor Who conventions? Well, what I like most is seeing all of you here, as you are today. Thank you very much for coming. It's very gratifying to know that you're still out there with Doctor Who fans. As I said earlier, you know, I never realised that 20 years later I'd still be out here talking to people about it. That's what I like most, is the fact that you know, as an actor, unless you're doing theatre, you don't really see your audience, you know, as a television actor. So it's quite interesting to be able to see your audience, you know, like I can see you now and know that you enjoy the programme very much. And what I like least is, I suppose, having to answer the same questions again and again. I don't mind it really. I mean, I'm not saying I dislike it, but every Doctor Who convention inevitably produces the same questions. So perhaps we ought to have a competition for the most original question at a convention, I don't know. But thank you for that question, that was good. Any more questions? Yeah, there's a young man here. I can't hear you, what you're saying. Is that what you asked? Which did I prefer, Crime Traveller or Doctor Who? Well, Doctor Who, I think, because I only worked on Crime Traveller for a week, and I worked on Doctor Who for about a year, so obviously I have more time to get to know people. The thing is, with going into a series like Crime Traveller, because you know you're in it for such a short time, you don't get to know anybody very well, and it's like, oh hi, I'm so and so, nice to meet you, who you seen, bye, I'm off now. And it's very quick. So I think, you know, the nice thing about Doctor Who for me was meeting different actors every week, or every episode, or every story in our case. So it was kind of fun because, you know, we'd have the regulars like myself and Tom and John Leeson, who played K9, bless him. And then we'd have new actors coming in every week. So I did enjoy it because we met lots of very nice people. Hope that answers your question. Right, anybody else? Oh yeah, somebody here with a question. Hi. Yes. Do I remember anything about a movie that I made called 3 Kinds of Heat, which was probably one of the worst films that I've ever appeared in. Did you see it? Oh, you did see it. Anybody else here see it? 3 Kinds of Heat? Yes, somebody else. Wow. Wow, that's 2 people. Yes, this was a strange film that I did with Sylvester McCoy, funnily enough. It was shot in London, and I think some of it was shot in New York, but unfortunately I didn't get to do the New York location. And I met Sylvester in it because we had a scene where, again, I was playing another buddy. I was playing, I think, a very sort of high-powered brothel keeper. I think I had a stable of, you know, brothels all over the world. If that's the right collective noun, I'm not sure. And Sylvester was playing another baddie, and he found out that I double-crossed him, you see. So we had this wonderful scene in this disused warehouse in London somewhere where he had to shoot me. And that was how I first met Sylvester. In fact, he was asking me about Doctor Who when I was doing it, and I used to say to him, oh, well, yes, you know, it's wonderful. You go to all these conventions, you know, and you get to sign all these autographs and get your photograph taken. And who knows, maybe I started him off thinking about Doctor Who. As far as the film goes, though, I think it was a bit of a dud. Any more questions? Yes, there's a young man over there with his hand up. Hello. Sorry? Did what?
Do you like the Key to Time?
I can't. Can you shout?
Did you like the Key to Time idea?
Did I like the Key to Time idea? Well, I didn't really have an opinion because it was all I knew. You know, I mean, I joined the series not knowing really that much about the format of Doctor Who, and I think I've got a vague idea that maybe the stories changed from week to week, or you know, every 4 episodes or something. But I didn't really know until I was halfway through that. Well, maybe not halfway through. I'm very slow, you see, terribly slow. So I didn't realise that the umbrella theme was quite new, but I think it worked very well. I mean, I don't know whether they've done it since, but I think having one theme running throughout the whole series, even with different stories, somehow works. I know that longer because it's an ongoing thing. It's like the time travel itself, you know, it's something that's ongoing. So yeah, I did like it. By the time, you know, I'd sort of realised that that's what was happening, I did like it, and I thought it was a good idea. And I think, you know, judging from the reaction of fans generally, they thought it was a good idea as well, because it was different, yeah. So, what do you mean the Key to Time specifically, having that idea of the segments? Is that it? Well, I thought that was a good idea as well. Just to answer your question.
I think we're starting to run out of time. I think we've got time for about one more question.
Oh, really? That's gone so quickly, hasn't it?
And we haven't fallen asleep, either.
No, not yet.
So there's one more question out there.
Just one more then. Well, maybe we'll do 2 more. Shall we do 2 more? Let's do 2 more. And nobody's going to ask a question now. They're all... Is somebody putting their hand
There's
up?
one there.
Oh, yes, there's one there. Hello. Could you shout, because I can't hear you? Do I prefer...
Tom Baker or John Leeson?
Do I prefer Tom Baker or John Leeson? Oh, we've got way, dear. Is that what you asked, yeah?
Thanks.
I can't hear it. Have we got a microphone? Can anybody nearby whichever one? Oh, whichever way?
Whichever way you want to take.
Oh, I can take the question any way I want. Oh, well, maybe I... Oh, I like them both equally, because they're both so different. And, I mean, Tom is Tom, you know, eccentric, mad, larger than life, and John Leeson is also quite mad in his own quiet little way. I mean, I'm sure they say the same about me. They say, well, Mary, Tom, gosh, she's mad too. But it was nice to work with John in the studio, because when we were in the rehearsal room, he'd actually play the dog. Did you know this? He'd actually play the dog and crawl around on his hands and knees. And so we'd have a little bit of a connection, because it's very difficult to work with a mechanical dog in the studio, because it is just a machine. So it was nice. Oh, you are pressed for time yourself, aren't you? So maybe we'll just take one more quick question.
Let me ask you one.
All right, John's going to ask a question now.
Is there anything left, any role left, any ambition left unfulfilled that you would really like
Well, yes, generally, you see, I mean, I have been very lucky in my career, and I'm not complaining, because I do know that, you know, a lot of this business is to do with luck. I have worked a great deal in films and television, but I do like the theatre very much as well, if not more. I did a little bit last year, and, you know, I try and do at least one theatre job a year, so I think, generally speaking, I think theatre would be, you know, where I'd like to concentrate on more if I was given the chance. The trouble is, you know, people sort of tend to classify you, but there are lots of very good classical theatre roles which I'd love to play, you know. So that's really what I like to do most, yeah.
Right. Okay, I'm confused because I know this panel's supposed to finish at 5, but that says 5 minutes left.
I know, it says 4:59 as well.
So do we have time for any more, or do you want us to stop? A couple more questions.
A couple more questions. Yeah, there's one over there, actually. Do I regret not coming up against the Daleks, or am I glad that I got away just in time? I think I'm quite glad, actually, because I find some of those monsters in Doctor Who quite scary. I mean, we just went up there to the monster room just now. I think they're really intimidating. You know, I can see why children hide behind sofas and stuff. I think the Daleks were an interesting invention, but again, you know, from an actor's point of view, having had that experience with K9, you know, it's all very well acting with another actor in a rehearsal situation, but when you're in the studio and there's this mechanical dog trundling around, I mean, it's forever tripping up over cables and stopping, and, you know, the technical faults are manifold with machines, as it were, so I can imagine working with the Daleks would be a bit of a nightmare, actually. So, yeah, I'm pretty pleased that I didn't have to work with them. So I think we do one more question?
One more? Yes.
One more question?
One more? They said 2.
Oh, there's somebody
One
waving
at
at the back, and you
Waving
will
at
have
the
to
back.
shout. Lady at the back. Oh, hi. Is it that my friend from Bradford there? Oh, hi. Was I involved in any other drama clubs in the Bradford area? Yeah, well, there was the West Riding Youth Theatre, which was, the West Riding Youth Theatre, that's all. Another theatre group which was very pretentiously called World Theatre after the famous group theatre studios in New York. And the Bradford Civic Playhouse and Film Theatre, which is where quite a lot of people started, actually. Tony Richardson, Diana Rigg, I think Ian Holmes started there, and also Peter Hughes, who was the director. You might not have heard of him, but he did a lot of work in the 60s and 70s. So that was a very good training ground. And I also did a little stint with the Cotting Hill Players, which I'm sure you'll all have heard of. But they were fab, I have to say. So yeah, I did do quite a lot of work in the Bradford area.
Okay.
That's about it. Thank you all very much for coming. It's been lovely to answer your questions.